everyone, and welcome to today's video. So in previous videos, we've talked about Airtable, especially for beginners. So we talked about workspaces in Airtable, we talked about bases in Airtable, permission levels, the hierarchy that Airtable is built upon, and we also talked about views in Airtable, which is also a very important feature that Airtable has to offer. So today we're going to talk about how to create tables in Airtable, right? So tables are like spreadsheets. So you know the regular spreadsheets that you can see in tools like Google and Excel, Google Sheets and Excel. Yes, that's format that you find in this softwares. You can find them in Airtable. That is why certain people refer to Airtable as spreadsheets. But Airtable goes beyond the spreadsheet vibes. It's actually more advanced, which is why a lot of people tend to pivot towards Airtable. A lot of operations, or rather, a lot of companies, a lot of businesses tend to pivot towards Airtable because Airtable is able to give you everything within it's within its capacity, so you don't have to run from spreadsheet to spreadsheet or run from Excel sheet to Excel sheet. In Airtable, what you get to do is to move from table to table, and all these tables are found within the same base. So now let's say I have a base that I'm using to handle my business. Now inside one base I can create separate tables, and these separate tables get to cater for different reasons. So I can have a table that takes care of bookings, I can have the next table that takes care of invoices, I can have the other table that takes care of clients, right? So the tables give me the versatile options to create as much use cases based on the tables that I have. So today we're going to look at how to create tables, and we're going to look at them one after the other. But the most important one we're going to look at, which is one a lot of people tend to use, especially when they're migrating from other tools into Airtable, and that is what we call importing CSV or Excel sheets into Airtable. So Airtable provides you the option to import data that you have from your Excel sheets or import data that you have downloaded into a CSV format document into Airtable. So let's get right into it. So as you can see on my screen, this is an imported table, and you can see that I named it imported table. Now we're going to import this table from scratch so that I'll walk you through the process of pulling in data from an external software, an external tool into Airtable and getting it in this exact format. Now, one of the first rules that I would always advise you to adhere to when you intend to import data into Airtable is to ensure you build out the skeletal frame of the table. Now, what do I mean? Now, if I intend to import data into my Airtable base, the first thing I'm going to do is I would create my table from scratch. Now, the importance of doing this is to ensure that you structure your table the way you intend your information to be placed. If not, you get to give Airtable the option to decide which field to allocate to your table. And most times Airtable is not so coherent in doing that, right? It's a tool after all. So you would not expect that it would give you 100% accuracy. So now let's say I want to name this imports, right? And then I'm going to save, and I'll begin to structure my table the way the CSV format I intend to use is formatted. So for this case, I'll be importing a CSV file that I downloaded from Mokaru. So Mokaru is a software where you can download realistic information. So I would attach that in the comment section, or I'll attach it to the video description, and you can check it out for yourself. So with Mokaru, you can download realistic info and realistic data, names. So basically, let's say you're building a mock project and you need realistic data, and probably AI is not giving it to you as well as you want it or as formatted as you want it. You can use Mokaru to do just that. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to section out my table the way I want it. So let me say I want this to be email, and I'll have to build it out that way. Email, and then I'll change this to an email field. Email, save. Um, okay, so I think in my table, I think there's another table that is in that exact format. Okay, voila. So what I can do is, since I have a table that is similar to this, all I need to do is to duplicate this table, or I can continue to create it by comparing the both. But the easiest way to do that so that we don't waste a lot of time is to duplicate this particular table. So I'm going to duplicate it, but I don't want it to duplicate the record. So I'll just ask it to duplicate the table like that, and it would give me an empty table. Beautiful. So this is the exact format in which my data will come in. So let's get this deleted since we already have something. And would now rename this one. Um, 1 minute. We'll now rename this one imports. Good. So we'll come here, click on rename, and rename this imports, and voila. So now we have the frame of the table. So like I said, the concept is being able to determine the way your data should appear, or the field types, basically being able to allocate the field types yourself, so that you don't give Airtable the what's it called? You don't hand it over to Airtable and ask Airtable to do it itself. Like I said, Airtable is just going to do the most it can, and it always doesn't turn out accurately, right? So ensure that all my table information is exactly as I want it. Now, what would I do? The next thing I'm going to do is to go over the options, and you can see the option to import data. So now let's look at the options available here. We have the option to either use an Airtable base, or the option to use a CSV file, Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, or we can paste. So now if I have a base that already exists in my Airtable base, I can decide to import data, but that's not what we intend to do today. So in subsequent videos, we'll look at importing data through from an Airtable base, or importing it directly from Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. But today what we want to look at is importing it from a CSV file. So let's click on the option of a CSV file. Now when that happens, Airtable will pull up this screen, and I would now click on the browse file depending on where my CSV file is saved. If it's saved as a local file, this means I'm able to locate it. It's saved on my computer, right? But if it's saved as a link, I would put in the link option. If it's saved in Google Drive, I would select the Google Drive that it is attached to. OneDrive, Box, or Dropbox. This is all dependent on where my data is saved. But for me, or for this case, I intend to use the local file. So I'll click on the option to browse file, and I will look for the particular file where that is saved. So like you can see, I have a lot of mock data that I downloaded from Mockr. So let's click on mock data 6 and open, and then you see it gets to upload it, and I'm asked to upload my file. So I would upload my file and wait for it to upload up to 100%. And when that happens, it will pull out my data. Now you can see it has done this. So it has positioned my data where it believes my data should fall in. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to map the field. So now remember when I mentioned necessary that you build out the structure of your table, or the layouts of your table, so that you're able to choose the fields where your data is to be inserted into. Now this is the reason why it is necessary. So now when I come over to the option to map fields, and you see that I can get to change the fields. So now for the place where I have customer name, if the field I'm importing is not, if the field customer name does not tally with the data that I want to appear in my customer name field in my table, I can as well change it. Now these are the various options that I can change it to. So this is where I get to cross check that everything is mapped equally, right? So country to country, postal code to postal code, purchase amount to purchase amount, and as you can see, everything is in order. But if for any reason I feel it's not, I am allowed to change it. Now you see I was able to change this to item purchase, but let's go back, because what it had mapped before was the right thing. So we're looking for payment method. Voila. So we choose payment method. Now this, everything is mapped adequately. Now one other thing you should notice, if you look at the first line of record, it carried, or rather it brought in the column names of these various data in the way they were structured in CSV. So what do? I'll come over to other settings, and I'll ask you to exclude the first row. Now you see it disappears. Let me do this again. So when I toggle it off, the column names or column headers appear, but when I toggle it on, it disappears. So my data is ready to be imported. And what do? I'll now click on import, and I'll wait for it to import the data. Now as you can see, CSV is being imported to the import table. This may take a few minutes, and this is what I have. So now my data has been imported into my table, right? So now here I have it, and I didn't have to start reselecting the field types, because if I hadn't built out the structure of my table, I would have needed, or I would have to restructure the I would have to restructure the table by reselecting the field type of the various information available in this field. So if I was to leave that to Airtable's discretion, Airtable might just give me field types that it feels that are necessary. Like for example, this purchase amount now is a number field because I chose it to be a number field. But what if I want it to be a currency field? All I need to do is, when building out the table, I will choose currency as the field type, and it will appear in that manner. So I can still make a few tweaks. But the point is, it saves me structuring the table and choosing the field types beforehand, saves me from having to restructure the table, or rather having to reselect the field types when I have imported the data into my Airtable base. So this is how you import data from a CSV file into Airtable without any hassle, without stress. Your information comes in into Airtable seamlessly, and this can be done in less than 5 minutes. This is one of the ways in which you can import data. And in the next video, we're going to look at importing Airtable, importing data from a separate base into your base. So let's say you want to import data from the operations base into the financial accounting base. You would use importing data via Airtable base. So we'll talk about importing data through Airtable base. We'll also look at importing data from Microsoft Excel and from Google Sheets also. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on this following videos. And I promise it's going to be as interesting as this particular one, because we're going to walk through the processes live and direct, and you see them in real time. My name is Pamela, and I am a workflow automation expert and a no code, low code developer. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.